Edmund Delabarre was born in Dover, Maine in 1863 and began a journey that would lead him to become the first professor of psychology at Brown University. Delabarre became known for his work on the motor theory of consciousness, and as a pioneer in a trend of psychological research dedicated to understanding the mechanisms of substance-induced consciousness. Stretching from Benjamin Blood and William James through the experiments on consciousness and LSD conducted by Timothy Leary at Harvard in the 1960s, and into the current political debate and discourse regarding the legalization of marijuana. Delabarre's education began at Maury and Goff's Prep School in Providence, Rhode Island. He earned his baccalaureate degree from Amherst College in 1886. Following this, he spent the next 6 years studying at numerous institutions, such as the University of Berlin and Harvard University, where he received his master's degree under William James in 1889. He also studied with Hugo Münsterberg at Freiburg University in Germany, and also with Alfred Binet at the Sorbonne in France. His dissertation roughly translates to About Sensations of Movement, and it earned him a doctorate of philosophy from Freiburg University in 1891. Also in 1891, Delabarre became the first person to be appointed Associate Professor of Psychology at Brown University. Before that time, psychology was treated as a field of speculative philosophy. Early in his tenure at Brown, Delabarre installed the university's first psychological laboratory, and was promoted to full professor in 1896. From 1896 to 1897, Delabarre acted as the director of the Psychological Laboratory of Harvard University during the absence of Professor Münsterberg. During this time, he developed a series of ink blots to study imagination in relation to personality types. However, this work was never published as Delabarre was not willing to communicate the results of his experiments until he thoroughly understood their implications. He was the first to record objective eye movements. He created a plaster of Paris corneal cup that clung to a cocaine anesthetized cornea, much like a modern contact lens. This device aided in the recording of extremely delicate eye movements. Delabarre was also adept at building measuring instruments, and used these in the study of relationships between movement and consciousness, an extension of the idiomotor theories current in his era, and a foreshadowing of realist and behaviorist theories emphasizing movement. The Edmund Delabarre papers housed at the Cummings Center for the History of Psychology focus largely on his research into the effects of the plant cannabis indica on human reaction and ability. Delabarre's motor theory of consciousness, or belief that the phenomena of consciousness could be studied in relation to the muscular movement systems of the body, characterizes his theoretical position in psychology throughout his life, and lends itself especially well to the explanation of his experimental results. Like many scientists at the time, Delabarre experimented on himself. He took doses of cannabis in liquid form and recorded his own visual and sensory experiences brought on by the drug, using his normal state as the only control. He kept meticulous records of changes in his breathing and heartbeat, and the relationship to shifts in mood and emotions as the effects of the cannabis grew and waned. During his experiment, Delabarre used a series of devices to measure different aspects of consciousness, such as anesthesiometer, a device for measuring tactual acuity by determining the 2-point threshold; dynamometer, a device used to measure the strength of muscular exertion; ergograph, an instrument for measuring changes in the amount of muscular constriction; chronoscope, designed to measure precise time intervals; long paper kymograph, an instrument used to record the temporal variations of any physiological or muscular process. Delabarre began his careful scientific experimentation with the aid of assistants. His careful records and notes were kept by himself, assistants, and stenographers. Delabarre kept a detailed diary of his internal experiences throughout the experiment, along with extensive recordings on tasks. He created comprehensive graphs to track his findings. An example of his meticulous study can be seen here in the recordings on May 2nd, 1897. Delabarre's recordings of this trial also included a typed timeline of experiences and measurements, recordings of reaction times, pulse, etc., and graphed tabulations of measurements. Delabarre completed a total of 11 trials examining the effects of cannabis in painstaking detail. This intense perfectionism was good for the depth of his study on the effects of cannabis, but ultimately led to his work remaining unpublished. Despite the barriers to publication, Delabarre gave several speeches on the nature of his experimentation. As noted in this newspaper story, in a speech entitled Hashish, given on January 20th, 1899, Delabarre described his experiences with cannabis. Throughout his cannabis trials, Delabarre also conducted a series of experiments related to afterimages, featuring drawings of the images he saw after pressing on his closed eyelids. Delabarre retired from active teaching in 1932. He died on March 16, 1945, after battling a 2-year-long illness. The Delabarre materials housed at the Cummings Center for the History of Psychology were donated by his wife, Mrs. Edmund B. Delabarre, and his daughter, Dr. Crary, after her mother's death. In a letter from Dr. Crary to the archives, she expresses her and her family's gratitude that her father would finally be getting the recognition that he deserves.